Joe, and lately I've been working on custom flight stands for my action figure collection. The Toy Biz used to make flight stands that plugged into the figures' backs. I used to have some of those. I always thought they were kind of janky, so I sold mine on eBay. I bought a set of these Mattel flight stands several years ago on their website, and I've never been very happy with these. First of all, they're made out of cloudy plastic. The clamp around the figure's waist really sticks out like a sore thumb. This part in the back here makes it impossible to put a figure with a cape on there, and they just don't give the figure a lot of height. I've seen lots of different clear plastic articulated flight stands online. Those are usually pretty expensive. At Toys R Us, they sell the NECA flight stand that's made of clear plastic and has the articulated arm with a clamp that goes around the figure's waist. I think that one also has a suction cup so you could put it on the side of a cabinet like this. And those look pretty nice too, but they're $10 each. It's kind of expensive. So I decided to make my own custom flight stands with a little diorama base. I think it's really cool. I hope you like it too. Let's check it out. Alright, so this is basically how all my figure stands start out. Obviously, it's nothing earth-shattering to use a wire hanger. I do mine a little bit differently. I've seen people that make cradles that fit under the armpits of the figures. I've seen people make kind of like a clamp to go around their waist. I've also seen people bend them to plug into the backs of the figures that are meant for figure stands, those peg holes in the backs of the figures sometimes. But I just like to leave mine straight, and I'll get to that later. I just bend the bottom of it around to lay flat on a flat surface. To give it a base, cut out foam core, and I tape the wire hanger to the foam core to make it a little bit more stable. Alright, and I've done the same thing basically with this stand, except that after I've completed this part, I put some glue, whatever's cheapest, on the foam core board, and then I cover that with Aquarium Gravel. And this kind of gives it a little bit of weight, makes it a little bit more sturdy. You can put heavier figures, pose a little bit more dynamically on this base now because of the added weight on the bottom. And it doesn't matter what you use to add the weight. You could use washers, you could use nuts and bolts, whatever you have laying around, scrap metal, whatever. I think it's a cool idea. You can make the bases smaller and make them heavier so they take up less real estate on your display and still add stability to your figure stands. And I like the Aquarium Gravel because it kind of looks like rubble from like a superhero battle potentially. Here I've done it a little bit differently. I've added some balsa wood. There's like a Star Wars figure stand mixed in there, part from a tank tread from a model tank that I bought for parts. So you can dress it up however you like, and most of mine I've made them look like rubble, wreckage from a superhero battle. Now when you cut a wire hanger, obviously you're going to leave a sharp tip on the end of it there, and you don't want that to damage your figure in any way. So what I've done with mine is I dip them in plastidip. And plastidip comes in lots of different colors. The black is the one that's most common and easiest to obtain for the least amount of money. But anyways, plastidip, as you can see here on the label, you can use it for all kinds of different things, but it creates a rubbery type of coating on top of whatever you dip inside of it. And basically you just take the lid off there and you slowly dip the wire hanger into the plastidip, and then you pull it out slowly and then let it air dry, and it creates a nice non-slip rubber coat over the wire hanger so it won't damage your action figures. So I usually use the black plastidip because I can go to Home Depot or Lowe's and pick it up for $7 or $8 a can. Whereas if I buy different colors, I have to go on Amazon, and it's a lot more expensive because they don't carry different colors at my local hardware stores. Basically, you can pick out the color plastidip that suits your background the best so that the flight stands are less obvious, or you can paint the plastidip too after it's dried. Now there's lots of different ways you can attach and secure the figure to the figure stand. The way I've done it is you can plug the tip of the figure stand into the character's belt, for instance, like I did with Sunfire here, right up his butt crack. And with this Iron Man figure, you can see it goes in the back of his diaphragm joint, fits in there pretty well. And then with characters, female characters or characters with long hair, then you can put the figure stand into the back of the hair behind the figure, and that secures the figure pretty well. You can see I'm moving her around and she's not going anywhere. Same with Iron Man here, he's pretty sturdy. That plastidip kind of creates a nice rubbery coating that keeps the figure from sliding around too much. So I like that pretty well. These figure stands also work really well for figures that have capes, rigid plastic capes, and even the softer rubbery capes, but unfortunately not the fabric capes. But I just put that figure stand straight up between Superman's back and his cape, and that holds him pretty well. Of course, you can reposition him however you want. You know, you can move it one side or the other, whatever works best for your display, or the figure in particular. And then with characters that don't have capes or long hair or belts, then you can use a clear plastic rubber band like I've done here with Green Lantern, and you know, you could work that rubber band inside his waist joint maybe, or inside his hip joint so it's not as apparent, but I left it there around his waist so you could see it. But that holds the figure on there fairly securely as well. Also, for the bottom of my figure stands, I like to use this craft foam, and it's just this real soft foam that's real thin, and you can buy regular foam that's a little bit cheaper and glue it onto the bottom here yourself, but I like to buy the sticky back foam sheets and just cut it out to fit whatever shape your figure stand is and put that on the bottom, and it protects the surface of your shelf, whether it's glass or wood or whatever. It also keeps the figure stand from sliding around. So this is an older figure stand that I made, and I like it a lot still because of the little robot arms and legs sticking out, like maybe Thor has just fought off a handful of Ultron drones or something. The bad thing about this is that it takes up a lot of room. Here's another one of the first flight stands that I made. It doesn't weigh anything. I didn't add anything to give it any weight, and so to make it sturdy for most of my figures in dynamic poses, I made the base really wide, which is cool, but like I said, it takes up a lot of space in your collection. Now, this is another more elaborate figure stand that I made several years ago, and I'm still really happy with it, but unfortunately it just takes up a lot of real estate. On this one you can tell I made another level there where you can actually have an action figure stand and still add some depth to your collection. And you can add whatever kind of crazy detail you want to the bottom of these figure stands. Here on each side I just have the regular kind of plain aquarium gravel that is glued down to the base, and then I dry brushed it with different colors of acrylic paint. This one is a little bit more detailed. It's got some foam core around the edge there that's painted, and I threw on some extra bits of aquarium gravel, just a little bit different color. I didn't paint this, and then I've added some greenery, and then this is a custom like posable lightning bolt that I made out of twisty ties, and then I coated it in plastidip. So you can do lots of different things with these, basically make them however you want. Here's one that I did that is a little bit more elaborate, make it look like exploding pavement or sidewalk there. Basically I just stuck scrap pieces of foam core together with a toothpick, and then I glued them and then painted them and dry brushed them with lighter colors of gray. Here's another of the more elaborate figure stands that I made, and this one doesn't take up as much room as some of the other ones that I've done. Basically what I did was I bought a X-Men 1 movie Professor X figure just for the wheelchair, with plans on making a Barbara Gordon Oracle figure. But so this X logo was part of the packaging that it came in, and then this janky Cerebro helmet came with him, and basically what I did was the same as all the others. I just did the wire hanger on the foam core board. I added all this extra stuff on there. I think it looks pretty cool, like Magneto's just floating above the rubble of the X Mansion. And also from this you can tell that these figure stands are sturdy enough to hold up even heavier figures like Marvel Select figures. As you can see here, because I've added the Aquarium Gravel, even though this base is actually really small, the weight helps make this figure really secure. It's not necessarily a really sturdy figure anyway when he's got his wings extended like this, but you can tell, like, he wiggles around a little bit because it's wire, but I mean he's not falling, you know? Like it's a pretty stable little base there because of the weight. So this way you'd be able to open and close your cabinets or whatever. If you happen to bump into the shelf with your figures, these are not going anywhere. So these are some of the more basic ones that I've done with just the Aquarium Gravel. And here's some examples of a little bit more elaborate figure stands or flight stands that I've made. Some of these chain link fence pieces, I got that from a, like a cage match, arena, diorama or playset thing that I bought on clearance years ago. I've used little bits of chain link fence for other things in my collection. This is a Star Wars figure stand that is supposed to be Obi-Wan's robe. That's after he was killed by Darth Vader, something like that. Just add a little bit of variety and texture, like this greenery here. I bought a bunch of this years ago, real cheap at Michael's or Hobby Lobby, and I'm still using it because I got so much of it. Then these little craft bricks, you can add just a few little touches to kind of liven these up a little bit. Here's a few more that are kind of like rubble or, destroyed city or whatever. This would be good for, your Avengers or X-Men, I think, where they have these big battles in New York City, for instance, and little bits and pieces. This is a, backpack that fired a missile. It came with an Iron Man figure one time, that's useless to me, but I put it here, and now it looks like the Avengers busted up an AIM, weapons factory or something, maybe. There's some more craft bricks, little pieces of wood for craft projects, and like a Star Trek figure stand, just all kinds of garbage, junk that, normally you'd throw away. You can glue it on here and paint it and maybe dry brush it or something to make it look weathered. This kind of wreckage type stuff is really easy to do. It's also pretty fun to do. Here I've done a couple more with wreckage or destroyed city or whatever, maybe, with put a little bit of greenery there to kind of give it a different little touch. And you can use twisty ties. I have tons of twisty ties from action figures that I've bought that I use for all kinds of different things in my collection and customs and stuff. So this one I did a little bit different. I just glued on some pieces of foam core and painted it, and then I gave it a dusting with white spray paint that I had left over from something else. And maybe it could be the Fortress of Solitude or Jotunheim or something. That's kind of cool. So you could use these custom flight stands for flying characters, obviously, to make it look like they're hovering or levitating above the rest of your figures. You could also use them for non-flying characters to make it look like they're swooping down on bad guys. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it entertaining and informative. Maybe you'll be inspired to make your own custom flight stands for your action figures. So before I leave you, here's a few pictures I've taken with my action figures using these custom-made flight stands. Until next time, take care. Bye.